In a world drowning in noise, where truth is often buried beneath layers of propaganda and misinformation, there's a need for a different kind of a network of creators that cuts through the clutter, that doesn't shy away from tough topics, and that delivers the unfiltered truth. We are Trim Radio Network. We are creators, we are innovators, we are investigators. We're the ones who aren't afraid to call a spade a spade. If you're ready to participate in thought-provoking discussions, informational topics, and of course today's biggest headlines, subscribe to our YouTube channel today. We're Trim Radio Network. We're cutting the bull and serving the truth.
Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. Take the red pill, take the blue pill, take the red pill, take the blue pill. You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, 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 take the red. You stay in Wonderland. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Now, from the northeast quadrant of the United States, it's the Red Pill Reality Show with your host, Riscala. Saturday nights from 9 p.m. Eastern until midnight on the Trim Radio Network. You can join the conversation in any of our chat rooms. And now, without further ado, your host, Riscala.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It is the Red Pill Reality Show. It is an honor and a privilege to have you join me. Everything is checking out. I'm not having any issues. I love it. I did a double and a triple check before we started tonight. So got a lot of stuff I'm going to go over with you tonight. Those of you who have experienced the pressure of the jab, your job or your jab, your job, the jab or your job, or your job or the jab, whatever that was. More and more information coming out. Some of it came out almost 2 years ago now, but it's been suppressed. The pharmaceutical companies are so powerful. You know, they basically own the media. I mean, they may not, literally own the media. But if the majority of your business is coming from a particular industry, you're not going to do anything to influence that relationship in a negative way. So they'll sweep a lot of this stuff up under the rug, and they can only keep it under there for so long. Thank God for the internet. I mean, the internet's got a lot of goofballs and a lot of crazy stuff, but it also has, where to look. And if you look diligently, about the Bible says, if you seek, you shall find. You look and you look diligently, and you cross-reference what you find, and sometimes just the original sources enough to bring it forward. So I'm going to share with you tonight, let's see, Dr. Martin, that's going to be about a 20-minute video. Dr. Martin is one of the most outspoken doctors with regard to what happened during the COVID, quote, pandemic. He said very early on, and they, oh boy, did they ever villainize this guy, man. They threatened him with removing his license, all kinds of stuff that they did to him. As you can probably well imagine, the pharmaceutical industry represents billions of dollars, billions. Somebody like that comes along with all the credentials that he carries with him and starts to say things like, or initially it was questioning. I'm questioning why this has to be in this manner. And then more investigations showed that what they were doing to us was not a vaccine. I'm probably going to get in trouble now. I shouldn't laugh. It's pretty serious. I got us kicked off of YouTube because I talked about this subject right here that I'm talking about right now. And it took us some work to get back on, so I hope I'm not going to end up getting kicked off again. But this is a fire that burns in me. I can't put it out. I believe God put it there. I believe that if you have information that can definitely help people, you should share that information, because if you don't share that information and those people end up being harmed in some way, shape, or form, then you get to share a portion of the guilt behind that. That's how I feel about it. That's why I do what I do. I've said many times, I don't make any money doing this. This costs me money. And I don't ask for money because it's not about money for me. It'd be nice to have all the bills paid for, because it does cost money for the servers and the platform to do it on. There's several different things that add up. At the end of the month, we, as a group of us, we try to keep it to a minimum, but they're still there. But we would rather, if nobody wants to donate to the cause, we would rather put in our own money to get the word out. We opened up a shop. I think you can find a shop at trimradio.com. While I'm thinking about it, there's a radio station who is using trimradionetwork.com and then having that forwarded to their site. We're not affiliated with these people. I've had a couple of people ask me about that. We're not affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. That's just something that we didn't think we wanted the Trim Radio Network because it seemed like a long name. People would prefer to put trimradio.com. And the result was someone else saw it. They saw how popular it was. They bought it. And now they're forwarding to their station, which is, as long as you understand, we're not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with these people. They do their thing. We do our thing. That's all I'm going to say about that. Let me get back to this. So a lot of people don't know that the pharmaceutical industry, in conjunction with the media, in conjunction with our government, because they have these people called lobbyists, it's nothing more than paying people off. It's bribery. It's just a fancy word that they use. But they lobby for this and that and the other. And in some cases, these, quote, lobbyists, they actually write the law so they can hand it over to Congress. This is what we want. And these are the words this is the wording that we want. And I'm not kidding you. This is all documented. It may not be every one, but it's happened. It should never happen, ever. Okay, let me get on to my heroine here. Ilhan Omar. Where are you, Ilhan? So there's a report that this dirtbag, I would use colorful language, but I don't think it's professional.
I'm also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. There are also violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee. in both 2017 and 2018. She was found guilty of the violations by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board 3 weeks ago in order to return those funds on June 6th. Ms. Omar appears to be a serial career criminal and should not have access to our nation's highest secrets and intelligence.
Pack your bags, baby. It is really disturbing that some people can get into office. And I think, I used to believe that people would vote for these people. I don't think that's what's happening in some of these cases. I really don't. I think what's happening is that the system is so corrupt they can put in whoever they want. For the longest time, I kept hearing, your presidents are not elected. Your presidents are selected. And I said, that's a bunch of crap. We all vote, blah, 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 blah. No, they're selected. I mean, this couple of last elections may not have been run the way they wanted them to run, but they were selected. So we have these people that are running for office now. We have Muslim in New York running for office. And President Trump has said, no communists. This guy is a communist Muslim. From what I understand, I may be wrong, but that's what I understand. And the problem that I have, because I have some personal friends of mine that are Muslims, and they're the most peaceful people in the world. You would never, ever, ever suspect them of doing anything because it's just not in their mentality. It's not there. But then you have the other side of these people who believe that it is their place to take over countries. And the way they do that is they move into a country and then they populate like rabbits, and then they work themselves into the government. And I think that's a fair case with Ilhan Omar. I have a picture of her that she just loves. Let's see if do I have that picture? Oh, that just got her good. Now, let's see if I can look it up during the break. I have a picture that'll knock your socks off. Oh, yes. Anyway, with all of this, they moved a whole bunch of people in Minnesota, which is I think that's her place. They moved a whole bunch of people in from her country. And then that's how she got that particular party. I'm looking for something else and I don't see it. I want to go back. Okay. So here's the disturbing part about some of the Muslims that are here. From the time these children are in diapers, they're training them. The best thing they can do is die for their cause. And that type of extremity, I wonder if that's a real word, but to be that extreme, I would never imagine it would happen here. But years ago, I heard about different places where these Muslims are training the children that the best thing that can happen is you can be a martyr. You be a martyr and you're going to go to heaven and you'll have virgins waiting for you there and whatever. Tell me what you think.
وسنضرب الأعناق عن أجسادهم ونحرر الأقصى الحزين العاري ونقود جيش الله منجز وعده ونسومهم سوء العذاب القاني.
I think that gives you the... Why did my camera go off? We just had an upgrade to our platform. And so I think that when I play a video... Okay, that's what happened. Yeah, I guess I have to keep track of that. One more thing for me to keep track of when I play. So we're on a platform that allows us to transmit on YouTube and Rumble and LinkedIn. I haven't got the Twitter yet, but several different platforms, as well as our our website, trimradio.com. And the ability to do that using one platform is really helpful for us because we're on one platform and it branches out to all these other places. And they just, as I was signing on tonight, I got a notice. We just did this update, blah, 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 blah. One of the things I had asked about, let me see if it's working. Hot dog, it's working. One of the things I'd asked about is it's difficult for us on this side of the camera to determine if our audio is any good. So we had written to them and asked, I think our media people asked if they could do anything about that, or they heard about it. I remember because I had asked several times in an email is there anything we can do about it? So it looks like they did, which is great. Let me get back to this though. All right, so initially I played the wrong one. The one that I initially came on is my frustration video. This depicts my frustration with what's happening today, because what we should be seeing are the real criminals, and what we're seeing are, what was it I read today? They arrested somebody in, I don't remember where. It's little fish. And the response was, well, Riscala, we start with the little ones and we work our way up to the big ones. Hey, pal, we got people in Congress saying the big ones, they have indisputable evidence. That means that they have hard evidence that there is a former president that has received millions of dollars from the Communist Party. Oh, we can't do anything. He has immunity. Baloney. What happened to Trump's immunity? Oh, we can't raid his house. Baloney. What happened to Trump's Mar-a-Lago? Oh, we can't arrest him. Baloney. What happened when you did it to Trump? We'll never get him indicted. Oh, baloney. That's my frustration. Because we should see this as a reality. This should be a reality. This is one of my largest frustrations with this administration right now. This should be the reality because they're able to go after all kinds of people at this point, and I'm grateful that they're going after the illegal immigrants. Thank you. But that's like a tip of the corruption that's happening. The tip of the responsibility of why our country is so screwed up right now. Why aren't the real criminals, the ones who have caused all this mayhem, the ones who were behind the scenes, knowing that what they were doing was purposely destroying our country? Why aren't they?
I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Oh Lord, can you feel it coming in the air tonight? Oh Lord, oh Lord. Well, if you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. I see your face before, my friend, but I don't know if you know who I am. Well, I was there and I saw what you did. I saw it with my own two eyes. So you can wipe off that grin, know where you've been, something a packed life, and I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, well I've been waiting for this moment all my life. Oh Lord.
That's my frustration. I wonder how many feel the same that I do, because it seems to me a lot of other people are feeling the same way. Why have we allowed these people to continue to walk free? I had one of my friends tell me, well, listen, if they're guilty of treason, they're going to deliver them to the military. The military is the one who's going to handle that. The military is not going to tell you anything. What happened to the administration that was going to be transparent with everything? We're still waiting on stuff from the Epstein. There's still stuff that's being withheld. So what happened to that? My frustration. These are the real criminals. These are the people who have just made it so horrendously difficult for all of us. They're saying now 20 million. You really think it's 20 million? Come on. How about maybe 30 million, 35 million? Made a living hell for some people, parents that had to bury their children because people were brought into this country and paid to be here and then end up murdering their kids. Nobody's been held responsible. Nobody. Meanwhile, you got people like this.
You can just kill ICE agents. You know that? You can just kill them. You don't have to hold your phone in their face and ask people when their birthday is and ask people what their name is and then try to find wherever they end up in Los Angeles. You can kill them. This isn't about social media clout anymore. This isn't about video. This isn't about the phone. This is about get a gun and start killing ICE agents. They are deputized corrections officers. Kill them.
What do you say to something like that? These are people who have taken an oath to defend the Constitution. And if there are people here that have broken the law, it is their duty, their responsibility to see to it that they're removed. But you have people who are promoting killing ICE agents. I want to go back. I just love this.
You can just kill ICE agents.
You like the nose ring?
You can just kill ICE agents. You know that?
Then you got not only one nose ring, I think she's got like three of them, one on either side and then one in the middle.
You can just kill ICE.
What is she? I mean, I don't know.
You can just kill ICE.
You know what's sad? This kind of person here
You can just
has no idea what it's like to shed blood. I guarantee you they have no idea what it's like to watch your friend die in front of your eyes. They would freak. They would be changing their underwear. But they got the brat
You can just kill ICE agents. You know that?
to say crap like that. This is why you are seeing what seems to be on the surface like a crackdown. Now, a generalized hard crackdown on the people. Some of it is justified. Some of it concerns me. We have the president talking about the possibility of denaturalizing Elon Musk and sending him back to Africa. What has he done that would even come to the thought that he would? Some of the stuff that's happening, people, I'm telling you, I'm not up on this. I'm not with it. I don't like it. Some of it's great and some of it's not. This is what I was saying before. It's like they're sitting at a table enjoying the most unbelievable meal you could ever find in your life, steak, lobster, whatever. And whatever falls off the table, we get to fight over. It's when I told people years back, I literally got chewed out by a former military man because I didn't have the video. I only had the audio at the time. Told me it was all made up, of General Wesley Clark and how he said we're gonna wipe out, we're gonna attack 7 countries in 5 years. This is right after 9/11. 9/11 was the excuse, people. 9/11 was the reasoning to get the people all riled up and not feel guilty about going out and killing innocent people, because that's what we did. We went out and killed. They may have been murderers, they may have been drug dealers, whatever, but they were in their country. They were innocent in the sense that they weren't responsible for 9/11. And we went and, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. We turned Iraq into a hellhole, an absolute hellhole. Went and murdered the president of Libya, created all kinds of havoc in Yemen. And I've said many times that the universe has laws. You cannot get around them. There is a left and a right. There is an up and a down. There's a dark and a light. There is this thing called karma, which many believe that if you do something really bad to someone or something, if you do something bad, period, at some time in your life, it's going to come back and pay you in some way, shape, or form. I believe in karma. I've experienced karma. In my personal life, I've experienced where I did something I shouldn't have done, and many years later, I paid the price. And the karma now for this country has returned to us. All of the damage that we have done, all of the hell that we have created overseas is now here. 20 million? Give me a break. I wish I would have brought that one. I don't think I have that one. I have a video of a former intel who is telling either Sean Ryan or Tucker, I don't recall. There are documented evidence that the Iranians have these missiles here. I think they're called MUDs, MUDs. I think I may be wrong, but something like that. And they're surface-to-air missiles, and they're absolutely positive there are at least 2 of them, at least 2. Thank you for the open border, letting anybody in.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me, and one of the generals called me in. He said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, he said, I just got this down from upstairs," meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran." The truth is about...
He's a former general. I think he's a 1 or 2-star general. You're getting it directly from the horse. The wars were pre-planned. And what adds to my frustration with this administration is they went and bombed Iran. People tell me, Rascala, you're on the wrong side of this. They needed to do that. They had to stop that. Those people cannot have a nuclear bomb. I'm not crazy about them having a nuclear bomb. But I don't like the idea that we went to another country and used some of the most sophisticated technology to bomb them, place a bomb. Who's to say no innocent people got killed? So I wasn't crazy about that. And what happens if it escalates? Now, fortunately, so far, everything seems to be level. But what happens if it escalates? Because we know that Iran has the backing of China. China has the backing of Russia. Russia backs Iran. So we got China, Russia, Iran against the United States. Do you think Israel would jump in? Don't kid yourself. Because Israel is not our friend. And they're probably going to get in trouble for that too. But it is the truth. And if you think that Israel is our friend, please go look up the USS Liberty incident. Because there's many not documentaries, but there's many documents about what happened. It proves that Israel is not our friend. There's so many things, if you just look, and it's not the people. I've had people tell me, oh, you just don't like Jews. It's not the people. It's the freaking government. It's the people that are in authority. Yeah, some of the people, but generally it's the government. You think our government's corrupt? Our government took lessons from them. That's another thing that bothers me. If you're going to be in our government, either you are 100% American citizen or you can go work somewhere else. This idea of being a dual citizen and being in our government is one of the downfalls of our country. You cannot tell me that somebody who is a dual citizen is going to give 100% to this country. What happens if this country and whatever country they're a citizen of starts to have a problem? Where is their loyalty going to fall? Why would we even allow that? We got to stop that. That nonsense has got to stop. That is, because that's exactly what it is. You got a football team and you got a quarterback who plays for two different teams and you're going to let him play on your team? Actively, he plays with the other teams too. No, ain't going to happen. So one of the things that Trump has done is he's brought up the Abraham Accord. And in this Abraham Accord, he's uniting several countries together in order to, everybody knows united is the strength, divided is where we fall. So he's bringing unity to these different areas in an effort to hopefully bring peace to the area.
Listen up. I'm so glad you pointed this out. She's talking about this billboard that they put up in Israel saying the Abraham Alliance, it's time for a new Middle East. We know that Witkoff said today we will have big announcements on countries coming into the Abraham Accords. So apparently more countries are coming into this peace treaty in the Middle East, giving Daniel 9:27 vibes. Now look at the photo again. It's got 12 people on it with Trump in the middle. Now look at this photo with the Last Supper. 12. 12 with Trump in the middle. 12 with Jesus in the middle. Is it just a coincidence? Was it really?
I don't go for the Trump in the middle. Yeah. Are you insinuating that Trump is Jesus? I don't think so. But I do credit with all these countries that they've convinced this is the best route for us, for all of us, where everybody wins. That's when I did my business, I tried to fix it so everybody won. The customer would win and we would win. They would be charged a fair price and the work that we would do would be guaranteed. And then we would win by being paid by them. So I always try to make it a win-win. There were people in my industry that were out there to just hose people. One of the terms we used to use. I don't know if people understand that. Just like slam them with the price. I didn't believe in that. I believed in a fair price. We have to pay us for our time, but we'll give you good work and we'll guarantee the work. It paid off in the long run, but all right. So back to this insanity. Here we have Tucker Carlson. This is interesting. Those of you who remember Tim Walz, we call him Tampon Tim, who I was amazed when he was asked about the incident about putting tampons in the boys' bathrooms. And he's, with a straight face, he said, yeah, boys should have tampons in the bathroom.
I've spoken to a couple people that served with Tim Walz in Nebraska in that guard unit, and they suspect, and we've done stories and tried to reach out to Walz for comment, but they suspect that perhaps he took their standard operating procedure, the SOP, for the howitzer army tank. He was assigned to this tank. It was nuclear capable, and this was all laid out in the SOP that goes missing while he's there. And
the manual goes missing?
Right, and they had talked to the FBI about this as well. There's so
what does that
many
mean?
questions.
Why did they talk to the FBI?
They think that he's traveling back and forth from China at this time, and then we also know that this howitzer.
Wait.
I know I sound crazy right now.
No, you don't sound crazy at all. You're recounting the facts.
Yeah.
You are saying that men he worked with in the National Guard in Nebraska went to the FBI because they believed he had given classified military secrets to the Chinese government?
They suspect that he did, and
well, they suspected to the point that they went to the FBI.
Well, this was all when all these stories are coming out finally about his background, and they're like, maybe we should talk about this. These are guys that back then didn't report this. This was in the early 90s, and they always talked about it amongst themselves. And I think that they weren't completely aware of, the potential threat something like this could pose, but they always thought this was very strange. And then China started producing almost a carbon copy of this military tank a couple of years later.
Come on. For real?
According to all of our research.
So why is he free? Now, I did a little more digging. Apparently, they're going to make an investigation. Don't you love it when they make an investigation? When the police misbehave themselves and, we're going to investigate that. They're going to investigate themselves. Give me a break. Nothing's going to happen. This is the frustration I feel. Nothing is happening. There's all this talk. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, we're looking at investigating. I want to see some perp walks. I want to see some of these people in the fancy bracelets. I would really like to see some of them at the end of a rope, to be honest with you, because they've committed treason, openly committed treason. And that is something that holds the death penalty. And we should bring it back. People should be. I think there was a reason when all of that was happening that people were loyal, because they understood, look, we have the freedom to do, and we have the freedom not to do. And if we abuse our freedom and we sell out to our enemies, we will be held responsible. But somewhere along the line, all of that was lost. Nobody's held responsible. Why do you think all this goes on? 85 billion is what the estimate was of our latest weaponry left in Afghanistan after how many years? Nobody even got a hand slap. Why aren't these people behind bars? Oh, Riscala, they executed this Hillary Clinton back in 2019. Okay, so I'm going to go along with what you're saying. They executed Hillary back in 2019. We have a Hillary that's still hanging out and doing the same thing, same evil crap that the original was doing. So what value did you bring? No, I don't believe it. I know there are clones. I know there are doubles, but it doesn't bring any value. You want to see some value? You do it out in public. Have her arrested out in public. Now, according to a video was it 2019? It may have been 2019. A 9/11 memorial video where the heat got to her. It wasn't even hot that day. And she was put into a van. Well, it appears as though she was handcuffed, but I couldn't get a good picture of it. I couldn't get a clear, concise picture of it. It almost looks like they threw her in the van, which I'd like to go shake their hand if that's what they did. But I don't know. I can only go by what appears. They purposely stood around her. The Secret Service purposely stood around her so cameras couldn't see get a clear shot of what's going on. Even if they did, because people said, well, she was arrested that day, Scholar. Okay, let's say that she was arrested that day. She's walking free, pal. There wasn't even a court date. Nothing. And her double, that day, a double came out. That I'm positive of. A double came out like an hour later after she was so sick and couldn't take the heat and she was passing out, blah, blah, blah. And an hour later, she comes walking out. That was her double. That was one of them. Yeah, oh, Lord. Okay. So I played for you the video about Tim Walz back in the early 90s, apparently selling information to the communists about our tanks. Now, if they're able to locate and get evidence on people who entered this country illegally, they have no records. When these people came in, it wasn't like, okay, what's your name? My name is Juan. What's your last name? Gonzalez. Okay, see you later, Juan Gonzalez. You come back to court in 2 years, okay? They have no idea where these people are at, but somehow they find them, the majority of them. Somehow they have a way of tracking them down, right? My point is they don't have any problem investigating and finishing an investigation rapidly when it comes to certain things. And other things, it's like they drag their feet. I don't know. Am I the only one who feels frustrated? Let me look at the comments. Scraps. Right. Scraps, that's what we're getting. Scraps. It rhymes with craps. Just take the S off. Because that's what we're getting. Crap. And that's my frustration. And I really believe that when this new administration would come in, we were going to see justice. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe it's my fault. But that's what I thought. And I give credit where credit is due. The Abraham Alliance, where he's working on peace overseas, I'm grateful for that. But to be honest, I'm not grateful that George Soros is still walking around free. What's his name? Peter Strzok is still walking around free. Comey is still walking around free. Biden is still walking around free. Obama is still walking around free. I'm not happy about that. Bush is still walking around free. These are criminals. Some people can't accept the fact that the people that were at the highest seat in our country were absolute criminals. No different than the person who would put a gun to your head. No difference. The evil that they committed while they were in office, and they still do today, I'm sure. And they're walking around free. Why isn't Fauci in prison? With all the evidence I'm going to play you a 20-minute video in just a minute here with a renowned doctor who has all the credentials to be able to speak on the subject. And he's not being nice. As a matter of fact, he says, I'm not going to be nice anymore. This is ridiculous. People are dying left, right, and center. They brought this thing forward. They had to change the definition of what a vaccine was in order to be able to call this thing that. They told you when you took it, you wouldn't get the V, the big V, that you wouldn't spread it. None of that was true. People took it and got the V, big time. Now we have people walking around with what's called long COVID. It's not long COVID. It's an after effect of the freaking thing that went in your arm. And it's not my opinion. That's a fact. That's a fact that has been derived by many different researchers who have all come to the same conclusion. This should have never been introduced to the human population, ever, in the form that it was. It changes your DNA. Where is that? I know I got that one. It changes your DNA.
A little bit about the study that just came out of Sweden that is just so alarming.
The news is buzzing out of Lund University, Malmö, Sweden. Marcus Alden is the first author. The first demonstration in a human hepatic or liver cell line that the Pfizer vaccine, in fact, reverse transcribes and installs DNA into the human genome.
Wow. And so in simple terms, what does that mean, Dr. Bartlett?
Thank you for making it simple. So basically, there's an enzyme that can take that messenger RNA vaccine information and put it into the DNA of the person, into their DNA. And we were told that could not happen. So this is in a lab, but it's showing that you remember the vaccine is messenger RNA.
Yeah.
And we were told that that messenger RNA could not go into your DNA, but this is showing that in a lab it can.
And so what happens when it does, Dr. Gold?
Well, can I answer slightly different than your question?
Yeah.
So one of the fun things about the last couple of years being a doctor and lawyer is this is a very interesting opportunity, and I think we're going to be bringing another lawsuit because there's actually federal law that you cannot discriminate against people for genetic discriminations. I forgot the acronym. I think it's GINA, G-I-N-A. GINA, right? So this now opens the door to saying that if you're not allowing somebody in who chose not to get the shot, that you're actually engaging in genetic discrimination. So I think this Sweden study, I think, opens the door to a new type of lawsuit.
If you're pregnant and you have this done, can that then affect your baby?
Yes, this is an alarming finding. The CDC says on its website very explicitly, this will not change your DNA. The paper that came out of Sweden. Now, there'll be many more to confirm it, and the steps are to confirm it, to confirm that the entire code is installed, and then to actually confirm that it's expressed, meaning that the spike protein now is continuously expressed from human cells. But because the lipid nanoparticles are taken up everywhere, that means somatic cells in your organs, but also your gametocytes, actually the cells that actually are the sperm and the egg. If they are carrying it, that indeed means that, in fact, it could be passed to the daughter cells.
So that could be open up for birth defects and...
Yes.
You ever heard of the Georgia Guidestones? I got something whining, something like a fan. Must be, the second computer kicked on. That's what it is. Georgia Guidestones. First line in the Georgia Guidestones: to maintain humanity in balance with nature, 500 million. I'm paraphrasing. I'm certain it's fairly accurate to what it said. In other words, they want to reduce the population of the planet down to 500 million. How are they going to do that? Well, they're not going to just start wiping people out right and left. Let me back up a minute. They're not going to start killing people right, left, and center. They're going to wipe them out with what's called a soft kill, something that's hard to investigate, something that's hard to define. In some cases, some of the people that got these shots, immediate reactions, immediate, as in not breathing, immediate. I'm probably going to get all kinds of trouble. I'll let them do it. This needs to be said. People need to know, because believe it or not, people are still going out and getting it. So I just played for you a video that shows this changes your DNA. Something that's very troubling to me. It says in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, I don't know exactly where, but I know it says something to the effect of, your name will be written in the Lamb's book of life. What if your name is your DNA? Everybody's DNA is like a fingerprint. It's not the same. So what if your name is your DNA? And these people come along And now they changed it so that it's not recognizable. What is that going to mean? I've said many times we're in a spiritual fight. We suffer the physical end of it. But the root of all this is spiritual. And if they know something like, well, we can, not only can we wipe these people out, but we can stop them from going back to seeing God and the graces of the Lord, because their names will not be recognized. Their DNA will have been changed. And now there will be strangers. Sick. These people are so sick. The darkness, we need more light in this world. Darkness cannot abide when light is there. It can't be there. It disintegrates. And the truth of the matter is, whether we willfully or unwillfully, willingly, we have allowed this to happen. And now it's going to be painful. I don't know. I hope we can rectify the situation. I don't know. But I know in the fixing of all of this, it's going to be painful. It's like a surgery. And I'm finding out more and more. So I'm mentioning to you how they want to control the population, right? If you go on the TED series, the TED Talks, look up Bill Gates, and you'll hear him say, the population's going to grow, blah, 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 blah. And we can have I don't remember the words he used, but he said, we can have an effect on that. We can reduce the population. And I believe he said the word reduce, if I'm not mistaken. We can reduce the population by at least 10 or maybe 15%. And we can do that using vaccines. There is a video I had on my YouTube channel. It's been deleted now. What appears to be, still shooting off fireworks, what appears to be Bill Gates at some type of a military meeting of some sort, talking about being able to remove the God gene. They've discovered the God gene within us, being able to remove the God gene with a vaccine. And then he further supplements that with, well, these people who are on the fringe, see, they always tell you that, well, we're only going to go after these certain people, right? So what he's saying in this meeting is that they've figured out a way through vaccines that they can target different people. Different people's genes will react to certain ways that they put this stuff together. And his follow-up was, well, he was primarily about the Muslim terrorists. We have to have boogeymen of some kind, right? The Muslim terrorists, we can give them vaccines, and they won't have that God thing going on in their brain anymore. They won't want to kill everybody. It's interesting that they figured out how to do that, right? I can tell you that millions, probably tens of millions at this point, have been affected negatively by the thing that was supposed to protect them. And it's sad because the people who were supposed to do no harm have taken an oath to do no harm, did harm. And I think some of them knew doggone well what was happening, but they did it anyway.
Are your fruits and vegetables being sprayed what looks like innocent water? Maybe not. Many grocery stores now are putting a chemical into that spray on our fruits and vegetables. We need to know. It's called sodium hypochlorite. You know what it is? It's bleach. Oh yeah, there's warnings about this. Chemstar is the company and Produce Max is the product. Ask your grocery store, do you use Produce Max sprayed on our fruits and vegetables? If they do, tell them you are not coming here anymore. Remember, we absolutely vote with our purchases. So we need grocery stores to stop using Produce Max immediately. This stuff is toxic, and you know what? We're breathing it in. They even have warnings saying don't breathe it. I just breathe some, so we need to stay away from the spray. But not all grocery stores do it. I know some of the Sprouts do, some of the Safeways do. Ask your grocery store.
How do you like that? So those of us who are, hey, I think I'm going to be healthy now. I'm going to eat some vegetables. Right. There's also this coating called A-peel, I think is what it's called. They found this coating on what was labeled organic. Organic food. You're paying a premium to buy food that is allegedly clean of all these toxins. And you pull the label, the organic label off, and behind it is A-peel, which is not organic. Not organic. Not even close. So they mean business about what was bringing it down to 500 million. And sadly, they're in a position where they can do it. The only thing to stop them is us. Because like I said earlier, have you seen anybody arrested? Pharmaceutical companies, absolutely, whoever put this together, were the chemists that put this together, I guarantee you 100%, they knew damn well what was going on. Nobody's arrested. This is my frustration. So I told you about Tampon Tim in China. Nothing happened there. It was in your face with Biden and 85 billion. That's their numbers, not my numbers. That's what they're telling me. That's what they're reporting. 85 billion. Oh, we're on Facebook tonight. Okay, cool. I was a bad boy on Facebook. They put me in the corner. So we're on Facebook. The numbers they reported were 85 billion. Went directly to our enemy. That's treason. That's the you look up the definition of treason. That's treason. There cannot be an immunity for treason. There can't be. We'll see. Nothing's happened so far. Meanwhile, we got people like Newsom, as I like to refer to him. People forget that this guy's, he is so dirty. He's Pelosi's nephew, so that can give you an idea. I found out that I think it was the Pelosi's. I'm pretty sure it was the Pelosi's. Their family background were like gangsters. They're like the mob. No wonder this woman had so much power.
Thank you all for coming here on short notice. Want to make it clear that everything you've heard and read is true. And I am deeply sorry about that. I've hurt someone I care deeply about, Alex Turk, his friends and family. And that is something that I have to live with and something that I am deeply sorry for. I am also sorry that I've let the people of San Francisco down. They expect a lot of their mayor, and my personal lapse of judgment aside, I am committed to restoring their trust and confidence, and will work very hard in the upcoming months to make sure that the business of running the city is framed appropriately. I also want to extend a personal apology to everyone in our administration, to my staff that I just met with, to my friends and my family members. I am deeply sorry.
So what's he apologizing for? He's apologizing because he had an affair with I think it was his campaign manager's wife. I may be wrong about the position, but it was somebody that worked with him. Somebody was close to him. You know the only reason he's sorry? He got caught. That's the only reason he's sorry. That's the only reason. But yet he's the one complaining that, oh my God, Trump is bringing the military in here without my permission. You're not doing spit, pal. It's crazy what's going on in this country. It really is. I don't think people really see it for what it's the value. The games that they're playing with us. I found out about 6G coming in 2030. Those people who got, I got a message. Those people who got, this is what I understand so far, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I can tell you with accuracy, there were people who got this jab, and it was corrupted. Maybe that's the best way to put it, because you can't call it contaminated if they purposely put it in there. It was corrupted, and what's in there, some of it they found graphene. And when they looked at under a microscope, tens of thousands of power, looked like, one man described it as a circuit board, looked like a circuit board. I've also seen reports that these things are self-assembling in the body. There is a patent, one of the patents that was used for this thing. I don't want to keep saying the same word. I know I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. There was a patent that was issued, and the patent number, even the patent number, should set lights off. The patent is 2020/060606. You put that in, and you'll go to a patent that is an injectable technology. And what it does is it makes the human a transmitter and a receiver. And it's based on 5G and up. And we've got 6G coming 2030.
6G is coming in 2030. That's the public launch. But testing began years ago in controlled zones across Virginia, Osaka, and EU smart grids. And here's what they won't tell you. 6G doesn't connect your phone. It connects you. In 2023, DARPA and ATIS ran a closed pilot across federal buildings in Northern Virginia. The tech? 6G presence nodes, powered by terahertz bands that don't just transfer data, they mirror you. Each user's gait, tone, even heart rhythm became part of the signal loop. The system adjusted light, sound, even push notifications based on real-time biometric drift. It's called adaptive ambient sync, and it's not theory. In the Arlington test zone, over 200 participants unknowingly entered what the internal logs labeled a behavioral sync cluster. Result? 68% changed walking pace within 90 seconds. 52% began mirroring posture. Average voice pitch dropped 12 hertz across the zone without prompt or audio cue. This isn't cellular, it's presence modulation, backed by Samsung's 6G white paper, verified in Hexa-X testbeds, and buried in Appendix 9 of the Defense Communications Futures Report, black-barred until last quarter. You were never the user. You were the interface. Want out? Disrupt the loop, delay touch input, break rhythm, avoid high-band hotspots during emotional peaks. Because with 6G, you're not browsing, you're being tuned. Tuesday accessed the relay logs. They weren't encrypted, because they assumed no one would read drift code but them. Now you have.
So there are people who got different versions of this thing, And the one version is the patent number I just gave you. And then there's people who got another version of this thing, and it causes what's called myocarditis, which is an inflammation of the heart. Oh, I didn't bring that up. I meant to learn. I'll have to play that next week for you. I think I still have it. A video of the people who perform autopsies and the people at the funeral homes are reporting that when they go to perform their process, they're pulling out these things that look like worms almost. Some of them feet long, feet. And many of these people, the cause of death was either a heart attack or inflammation of some sort of the heart. Directly attributable back to what they got. The people who perform these services have never seen anything like this. This is the first time in history that they are reporting these things. So what could have possibly happened? Where is the correlation? Think. My conclusion is there were various types of this. Some of them did nothing. Some of them were just a placebo. Others were probably almost like a vitamin shot, so that you would have people walking around going, I got mine, I didn't feel anything at all. I got mine, you know what? I actually felt better after I got mine. And then, of course, you got the corrupted. The stuff that is just contaminated with all kinds of garbage. And the price is being paid today. People are dying. There was a popular hashtag, died suddenly, a while back. You see how they shut that up? It got really, really popular, but they shut it up right away. Right away. Died suddenly, because so many people were dying suddenly. Athletes dying on the field. People that they showed several times where it appeared to be like a soccer game. And then I think it was here in the United States. I'm not up on sports, but I think it was here in the United States, a football game. And one of the players apparently had a heart attack. And they said, well, it was the way he was hit. Come on. I agree that you can be hit right and have a heart attack. I'm not arguing that point. And I don't think that's what it was at all. These were the same people who were pushing this stuff on. You know, well, the whole team's going to get it. Now the whole team's paying for it. So my frustration, when I said earlier about the Obama, did I say that without throwing up? Wow. Yeah, my frustration with this.
What if I was to tell you that one of the companies in Washington that attorney set up is a medical coding research company? What if I told you Obamacare was set up for one reason and one reason only, and that's to traffic children? Obamacare. It's the only reason it was set up. What if I told you that they invested so much money, they built 3 supercomputers in the university in Austin, Texas, that a mother can go to her gynecologist, find out that she's pregnant, and the moment he puts in the code, the child traffickers are following that mother, their pregnancy. They know whether she's going to get an abortion, whether she has a live birth. They follow the kid through the first few years of school. They know if it's got blonde hair, blue eyes, or red hair, green eyes, or whatever. And what if they got blood type, DNA, all your medical records? So Obamacare coding system removed doctor-patient confidentiality from the United States and the world. Don't think it just happened here. It happened all over the world in every United Nations country when that was passed. We started it. So it's a 5-digit coding system with over 80,000 codes. We call it medical kidnapping in this country. I have parents that have walked into Phoenix Children's Hospital, and they can be up there talking to their doctor. Their doctor writes stuff down in his notes. He hands it to the medical coding expert in his office. She takes it, she puts it in the computer. CPS and the Superior Court of Arizona leases space in the basement of the hospital. A red flag pops up on the CPS agent's computer down there. She has every medical record, the home address, the parent's name, everything. She can cut, paste, put it on her documents, an order to remove, walk it next door to the judge, have him sign it, get in the elevator, be upstairs within 5 minutes taking the child.
On what ground?
Whatever they want to think up. Yeah.
I heard they lease space in every hospital.
They do. Every hospital.
Scary. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Riss, what's going on, brother?
I'm talking about there's so many things that we're being attacked on, so many platforms, so many areas. And the last one was about how they can kidnap your kids from you. I personally have grandchildren that have been affected by the jab. One of them is autistic, severely autistic. A couple of them are just on the line, but you can see that there's they've got their own little quirks, if you want to call it that.
Don't take the jab.
Yeah.
I could tell your listeners from experience. I'm a guy that has sarcoidosis, lupus SLE, and enlarged white cell leukemia. It was called a blood disorder in 2020. And I remember 4 out of 5 of my doctors had told me, listen, and it was just a blood disorder at that time. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know anything as far as that went. I took a shot. Then they said, if you don't take this thing, you're going to end up dead. So I took the next one, and then I got that booster thing. First of all, it was supposed to be one shot. That was going to correct it. And they said, you need a booster for that, and then you need a booster for that. So I did that. I took 3. I ended up with an enlarged heart. I ended up catching COVID twice. I had long COVID for about 1.5 years and, had some heart issues. And I never took it again. And it finally started to get out of my system. And of course, I was doing some remedies to try to get it out of my system. But now I have this. It went from lymphoproliferative blood disorder to what we call enlarged white leukocyte leukemia. So out of all the leukemias, that's probably, if the worst that it'll get, I'll get a bone marrow transplant, or I'll end up getting what they call a CAR T cell infusion, where they take your blood out and they regenerate it, re-engineer it to attack the, leukemia that's causing it, but it's not fun and it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. So, for me, and the last doctor, after I was going through this, he told me, he said, plain as day, what the hell were you thinking? Mm-hmm. And he was the one out of the rest of the doctors that said, what the hell are you thinking? And I was like, well, everyone's telling me I'm going to die from this thing if I don't take it. Yeah. So
they put you in a position of fear. And when you're in that.
And you know what? That's not like me. And I fell for it. But I will tell you this, there's one shot that I have no problem with. And it saved me, and I know that it saved me. And that is my pneumonia shot. But you only take, like, every 5 years, you take one of those, and then you only take one after 65, and that's it. You never have to take it again. but that shot has saved me. And that probably is what saved me, in all honesty, from the COVID, not the jab, but that shot there. And I will say that's the only shot that I will take. I do not take flus. I do not take RSV shots. I do not take COVID shots. I don't take anything like that at all. I believe in that one shot, and that's it. That's the only one that I will take, and I never have to take it again anyway. I'll go in and take it when I'm 65 and half a decade from now, but that's the only one I get. And they try to corner me on the flu shot and everything else.
Yeah, I get the same thing every time I go to the hospital. Have you had a tetanus shot? No. Yeah, I was with this one doctor the first time I saw him since I moved. So he's asking me questions. Have you had a tetanus shot? No. And I see him write a note on. Have you had a flu shot? No. And he writes it down. Have you had your COVID shot? No. And he writes something down. He asked me about some other shot. I can't remember what it is. And so I said, well, just make sure that you annotate that, I don't do vaccines. He goes, oh, I'm writing you prescriptions for each one of them. No, you're not. You're right. Well, you can write all you want, but I'm not doing them. It's not happening.
I tell and the oncologist is, after talking with her, it's, when you have an autoimmune compromised body, the last thing you want to do is start taking more stuff in your body. Yeah. So I was advised against that, and of course they try to corner me, and I'm just like, you must be out of your mind. And I just tell them straight on up like that. I said, you aren't going to stick me with the thing. I said, it's just not going to happen.
Good. Yeah. And there's justification. Let me play. This is a short video. It's only about 30 seconds, a minute, a little over a minute.
Johnson & Johnson is the largest, costliest, and deadliest criminal conspiracies in American history. Nothing else is close. They caused or contributed to the deaths of 2 million Americans. Johnson & Johnson, according to grand jury documents that I have, which, as you know, Josh, is really rare to have. They are very secret. Johnson & Johnson sales reps then went to psychiatrists with two messages. One was, don't worry about killing your patients. No one will ever catch you. And the other was, if you want to hide your tracks, diagnose these patients with late onset schizophrenia. You and I both know that there is no such thing as late onset schizophrenia. And that's when I realized, oh my God, this company is totally different than what I thought. Because of course, Johnson & Johnson has been selling itself as the baby company for more than 100 years. Johnson & Johnson itself has spent $35 billion since 2011 on lawyers and litigation. I knew many of the top experts in the country, and I called them about these stories, and they would immediately go off the record and say, Gardner, are you out of your mind? Do you know what kind of lawyers these people have?
When I think back to Johnson & Johnson for myself, the thing I remember most is the commercials with No More Tears, right? You've got a baby in a bath, but the reality is that it's good marketing. And it was a lie.
So there you have it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have pharmaceutical companies that have free reign, they become very, very dangerous. And
when they're writing the laws, they have what are they called? Impunity, where you can't sue them. If something happens to you and you can prove that it happened to you because of a shot, you cannot go after the manufacturer of that shot. What you have to do is you go after the government. Good luck.
Yeah, you can win. It's not that you can't. But the thing is that you better dig in when you do, and that's just all there is to it. But whenever you have big companies, whenever you have people that are in charge, that have all kinds of influential monetary pull, you're in trouble. And we've had that in the last 4 years. We had that, and it was absolutely disgusting. And here's a prime example of just not even talking about the jab, but influence with the media backing it up. I watched something today, and getting off a little off topic, they were making fun of Trump's big, beautiful bill. And I haven't read this thing. I don't know if you've read it or not. But when I see people like Chuck Schumer say, he's going to take off millions, this is going to affect millions of people that he's kicking off of, Medicaid. For me, there were two things missing, and people don't pay attention. Number one, he said, people, not Americans, but people. And I'm thinking, okay, so when you say he's going to cut 4 point whatever million people off of Medicaid, who are those 4 point something million people? Are these illegal aliens?
Because that little part of it out, yeah.
And when you see the video, you can all go to Reels. You'll see the video eventually. It's people, not Americans.
Yeah.
And they do this, but that's how. Well, we didn't lie about it. We didn't.
Yeah,
lie
that's like with the words. Yeah.
But it has to do with the words. So you have to pay attention very carefully about, what they're saying. I mean, I saw that with Fossey after a while, and I was just like, son of a gun. I saw that with him, and there's nothing worse than when you know that somebody is lying to you, and a bold-faced lie. I knew this guy. How many years ago did I tell you this guy was doing gain of function? How many articles did I send to you?
Yeah, and my frustration is he's walking around free.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The influential poll. That's what I'm telling you. The influential poll. Now there's another one out there called it's like gain of function, but it's called Mere Technology or something like that. Yeah. Listen, they're playing. Remember that thing I showed you? And I said, this is worse than gain of function. Gain of function's main purpose was, what they said it was to take a virus, and then they would play with it to make it stronger so that they could develop a vaccine for it. And then they were like, okay, well, we didn't do that. We didn't have gain of function. Well, we know through the text messages, and we know through his congressional hearings that he had to go through, they did in fact have gain of function when he said there was no gain of function. He, in fact, through the NIH, they knew how much money was being tested and doing the gain of function over there. And if you remembered everything that happened, there were rioting and stuff going on over in China, where not one person asked, where did those people go? and of course, they do this thing, look at the wet market, don't look over there a couple of miles away or however many clicks away at the big laboratory. And, loosey-goosey on some of the things that they were doing. And of course, then they'd send it back to a university. Whenever you're playing a game like this and you're playing with these infections, and then you create one that can mutate from there and change its face, it's incredibly dangerous.
They know that.
Yeah,
that goes back to what I was talking about earlier about we're going to reduce the population of the planet. This is all part of that. Here's this is Dr. Robert Malone.
The mirroring is going to do it, just so you know. The mirroring, that's the one we've got to watch out for.
That's what I've heard. They say it's 100% kill rate.
It's a mortality rate of 100% because the problem is at that point when you mirror these things genetically and the way that they mutate and that they do it, there is no vaccine. There is no cure. And you have to look it up. It is an incredible.
It's something like mirror. I do remember. Here's Dr. Robert Malone. Now, if you don't know who this is, just look him up.
And do you have any science to back up your opinion?
The best data are autopsies. So in the largest autopsy series published to date, I know because I'm the senior author. Of all the deaths we examined, and we re-reviewed them, we had an adjudication committee, we had ways of arbitration, deciding on did the vaccine cause death. The answer is of these cases that came in for autopsy after vaccination, 73.9% of individuals, it was determined that the vaccine was the cause of death. First author is Holscher and colleagues. He's sitting right behind me.
Okay, so I found it. It is called Mere Life. And
I remember it had the word mirror in it. Yeah.
Right. Mere Life. And they say hypothetical. But let me tell you, there it is. There's that wording I was just telling you about.
Yeah.
Okay. Hypothetical. How can you have the word hypothetical and yet you already have a name for it?
Yeah.
This is the thing for me. That's that's the thing that people need to pay attention to. You have a name for something, and you have a reason.
Hypothetical. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm going to read this, and then you say the word hypothetical. Well, it's hypothetical. Where the hell did you get the name?
Yeah.
That's number one. Okay, but listen to this. It's a hypothetical form of life with mere reflected molecular building blocks. It could pose unprecedented risks to human life and ecosystems. Although currently considered an impossibility, sure. Was that when the article was written, or is that today? Even the simplest mere bacterium would be too complex for scientists to attempt making. But yet, they know a name for it. They say it's hypothetical, and you can't think that scientists that they're not working on this right now.
Their rules are, their laws, whatever you want to call it. They have to tell you what they're going to do before they do it. They're telling you.
They're telling you.
Yeah.
They got the name, and here it is. Most major biological molecules, including proteins, DNA, and RNA, point in one direction or another. In other words, they are chiral or handed. How your left glove fits only your left hand, and your right hand glove fits only your right hand. Chiral molecules can interact only with other molecules of compatible handedness, which you're basically, if you make this thing, there is no way that you're going to be able to make a vaccine. As a matter of fact, they're so scared of it now, the leading scientists, more than the way that they were scared of AI getting out of control, are scared of this thing getting out of control. This could be a life-ending, civilian-ending type of deal. It's that dangerous.
Wow.
Yeah. So
here's my point to all of that, Michael. Why isn't we know who's doing this, right? We know who's doing it. We know who's putting it together. Why hasn't anybody been held responsible?
Because, like I told you, when you have monetary political clout and influence,
exactly.
Okay, and you can.
What does that they say about money talks, or money talks and BS walks? Right.
Here's another one. And scientists warn over mere bacteria that could wipe out mankind. Leading scientists have issued an urgent warning over the unprecedented risk posed by lab-made life, which could wipe out mankind. Now, remember that word hypothetical? Why does it have these guys scaring the crap out of them if they're not already trying to play with this stuff?
Like I said, they're telling you.
It's all in the wording.
It's already done.
And here, the so-called mere life are synthetic organisms that are constructed out of mirrored versions of molecules found in nature. Experts warn that these mere organisms would be invisible to life on Earth, allowing them to slip past immune defenses of all known organisms. If mere bacteria were to escape from the lab, listen to that again.
If
mere bacteria.
I'm telling you, it was a bat and a cat, and they all got together and they formed this new virus. Yeah, please.
So if it were to escape from the lab, there would be nothing to prevent them from establishing themselves in the wild, threatening plants animals, humans with lethal. There's that word. When I hear lethal, I'm hearing 100% mortality rate.
Yeah.
Okay? With lethal infections. The creation of mere bacteria. There's that word now. Remember what I said about the wording? The creation of.
Yeah. Yeah.
It already exists. The
That's right.
creation of.
Yeah.
So is at least a decade away, they say. But in a 300-page technical review published in Science, the authors note that rapid progress is already being made.
They've already warned of another pandemic. We've already been told there's another pandemic coming.
Rapid progress.
Well, there you go.
Okay. A group of 38 Nobel laureates and other experts, including some who have previously tried to create mere life. Now you know that they've been trying. There's another confession that, and you don't hear about this stuff. Okay,
No,
now this one happens to be right on MSN.
I don't want you to know about this. This is the worst thing in the world for them, is to have knowledge. People know what's going on.
Here it is. Dr. Vaughn Cooper, a microbiologist from the University of Pittsburgh, co-author of the paper, says, this form of life has never existed or evolved. Consequently, all biological interactions would be different or likely wouldn't work. We don't want to limit the promise of synthetic biology, but building a mere bacterium is not worth the risk. Just like your left hand is a mirror image of your right hand, many biological molecules also have a left and right-handed mirror molecule. What makes this feature so important for biology is that it doesn't vary from species to species. The molecules which make up all life on Earth have the same handedness.
Wow.
Which means this thing can infect ecosystems, animals, plant life, people.
You mentioned the ecosystems. I was mentioning in the beginning of the show how we're getting the little fish. They arrested 2 Chinese spies, I think is what they referred them to, for what do they call it? Agro-terrorism, I think is what it's called. And what they were trying to introduce into the soil is some kind of a bacteria or something like what you're describing, and it spreads rapidly and it kills everything. It kills all so you have no plants, you won't have any farmland, you won't have anything.
There's no nutrients in the soil. There's nothing. It kills. When I say it kills, it wipes out everything. Wow. So believe it or not, soil is alive to some degree. Maybe not the way you think, but what does it hold? It holds nutrients to grow plants, right? So if the nutrients in the soil are extinguished, then it is devoid of creating life. Now, this article, just so everybody knows, the story was by William Hunter 6 months ago. And I had been talking about this. I've seen stories like this over a year ago. Okay. And this was out of, it's got Daily Mail from MSN. But you can look up the story by William Hunter. And everything is in the wording. So what you're hearing today, what we're going through today, you have to pay attention to exactly what they're saying. And that's the scary part. First, they're telling you, we're a decade away, but there's rapid progression on this thing as far as them working on it. And then before that, it was hypothetical.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, it's like I said, they have to tell you. Right? Those of us who've followed this long enough, I think that's one of the first things that we come to the conclusion of. They have to tell you. It could be encrypted, somehow, but they have to tell you. And I think they believe, like I mentioned earlier, a karma effect. So if they tell you, I'm going to kill you, but I encrypted some way, and you don't recognize it and you don't say anything and they kill you, well, hey, we told you, you didn't do anything. You didn't say no. You didn't say you can't do that.
Okay, it's just like this. On Earth, in this worldly system, what is truth? There's only one thing that I know is truth. And you know what that is, Riss.
Yeah.
You know what that is.
Yeah.
God's word. That's it. Anything else, what is truth? What truth is there to it? Nothing. It is an illusion. It is whatever wizard you want to have behind the curtain. So it's, to me, it's incredible how they work, but pay attention to the wording of everything. And I think people need to get into that mindset. And you need to go ahead and open yourself up to the thoughts that that's how this world is going to be from here on in.
All right, I want to play this. This video is about 20 minutes, but I really believe this is very important. And I think you find this very interesting if you can hang out with me, Michael.
I will for 20 minutes. I'm gonna get me a cup of coffee and
yeah, I think you'll find this quite interesting. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Because they changed everything. Here we go. No. Yeah. All right. We'll make this full.
A very small number of criminal industrial conspirators decided to subordinate the entirety of the human population for the purpose of their sinister plans to enrich themselves while impoverishing and killing the rest of humanity. And I'm done being polite. We've long passed polite. When the words acceptable death rate become part of an industrial norm, we have lost the plot of humanity. And that's not my words. Those were the words of the World Health Organization and of Pfizer and of Moderna when they were given the authorization to begin the process of killing human beings in the interest of advancing their goals. Next slide. And I'm also not going to sugarcoat this. This is a criminal cartel. We are acting as though there's some sort of redeemable quality somewhere in some esoteric layer that somehow or another the World Health Organization must have some salutatory benefit. Well, I'm going to tell you, since its formation in the 1940s, the World Health Organization has been nothing more than a criminal cartel that has a sole and singular intent. And I will show you the document that proves what I'm saying. This is not an allegation. This is actually provable by their own words in their own hand. And they use a four-step process to execute every one of their nefarious plans. They begin by planning an exercise, then they go to the business of funding that exercise, then they create the rationale for the thing that they're going to do, and then they deploy and profit from it. And in violation of 15 U.S. Code Section 19, which for those of you listening, coincidentally started with the Clayton Act in the same year that the World Health Organization in the United States, 1913, the same year the World Health Organization's progenitors also started. So I find it fascinating that we passed the Clayton Act in 1913 and we set in motion 110 years ago the criminal conspiracy, which we now call the World Health Organization, 110 years later. And in violation of TIFU, or TEFU, I don't even know how to say it, the TFEU, the treaty allegedly for the functioning of the European Union, which I think needs to now be called the Treaty for the Dysfunctional European Cabal. Article 101 unambiguously lays out the conditions that this was never a public health anything. It was racketeering for the purpose of instilling terror to adapt the behavior of a population, period. That's what it was. That's what it always was. And we can come up with every theoretical argument we want to make about things, but the problem, even with the theory that we had an outbreak of something, is falsifiable for the data from Zurich that shows us that in the year of the death pandemic of the globe, life insurance companies paid $30 billion less in claims. Now, if there's a medical professional or a social professional or anybody else who wants to debate that we could develop a virus cunningly that could find out your bank account, your insurance policy statements, and whether you're paid up on your premiums, that's a big ask. It turns out that the data is unambiguous. We did not have a pandemic. We had genocide. And we need to call it what it is. Next slide. When I say we planned it, let's make sure we understand exactly the not so fine print of the fine print. And I want to call your attention first to the right-hand column of this slide. This is the 2011 data that the World Health Organization, the Wellcome Trust, PATH, and the Gates Foundation did on their wonderful worldwide program for a malaria vaccine for children under the age of 6 months of age. And in their clinical trial, it's helpful to point out that they murdered 66 children in the vaccine group and then cunningly used the term control for a control group in which they murdered 28 children. Now, the reason I said murdered and the reason why I use that term is because it's exactly what it was. Because it turns out that this control group was not a saline injection. It was not some sort of innocuous, innocent thing. It was actually a cocktail of other known pathogenic disease-carrying injections. The control group was known to kill people, and the experimental control group was actually theoretically maybe going to kill people. And what we did was we actually went ahead and murdered them all. And cunningly, under Article 5, Section 13, which I've put on this slide, I want you to understand why I said at its formation in 1947, when the WHO was funded and founded, it was funded and founded by people intent to commit a crime because of their own language. Section 13 of Article 5 ends with the following statement: immunity from personal arrest or detention, blah, 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 immunity from legal process of every kind. Now, if you didn't intend to commit a crime, why would you need to give yourself permanent and absolute immunity from every form of prosecution, and it's worse, even investigation for prosecution of every kind? People sit there and pretend, well, that's like diplomatic immunity. Do you realize this isn't even meeting the standard of diplomatic immunity? This is a criminal organization who set in motion their own law to protect themselves against crimes they knew they were going to commit. And when I say they knew they were going to commit, I mean they knew it, because their first director general, none other than Dr. René Sand, who happened to be in the hospitality of the Germans in Dachau in 1940 earlier, in 1947, mysteriously, with the largesse of the Rockefeller Foundation, was nominated to become the first director general of the WHO. And within 5 short years, René Sand decided to authorize the real purpose of the WHO in writing by then Director General Dr. Brock Chisholm, who advocated for population control as its primary objective. Does that sound like public health to anyone in this room? This is not public health. This is the advancement of the same genocidal program that began with the Carnegie Foundation's funding of the eugenics office at Cold Spring Labs in the United States in 1913 under the philanthropy of Andrew Carnegie. People, stop fooling yourself. We debate the leaves on the tree of what we call this pandemic thing, but we're not going to the root. This was an organized crime, racketeering entity set up to give itself first absolute immunity and then execute its plans to make sure it controls who lives, who dies, and who gets any chance at life. And if you think that I am somehow inflating numbers, let me be unambiguous. Under every treatment of tax provision, if I were to tell you that there is an 88% controlling interest of any organization, you might conclude that that actually aggregates into a controlling interest. And it turns out that if we look at the foundation donations to the World Health Organization, 88% of those come from a single organization, the Gates Foundation. That constitutes a violation of every competitiveness law in Europe and every competitiveness law in the United States. This is absolutely not only not an independent charitably funded donation, but more importantly, under the tax laws on both sides of the Atlantic, this constitutes directed donations which specifically are forbidden and do not have any place anywhere in the Charter of the World Health Organization or any of the UN affiliated organizations. When I say this is a crime, I mean it's a tax crime, a racketeering crime, a money laundering crime, and now the crime of racketeering leading to murder and global terrorism. Next slide. I told you that the second thing after they plan it is they fund it. And why don't we use the criminals' language in their own words, because it's the best way to say it. When they actually planned the release of the use of a biologically modified chimera associated with the model derived from coronavirus, they actually said the following: to sustain the funding base beyond the crisis, we need to increase the public understanding for the needful medical countermeasures such as a pan-influenza or pan-coronavirus vaccine. Now, let me pause for just one moment and remind you that the crisis that they were speaking of was a crisis of diminishing funding. There was no health crisis. This was a crisis of their coffers were starting to run dry. That's the crisis. And let's read on. A key driver is the media, and the economics will follow the hype. We need to use that hype to our advantage to get to the real issues. Investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. That is officially the statement made by the conspiratorial cabal that by that time was the decade of vaccines put in motion in 2011 by the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board of the World Health Organization, and it was the funding base for Peter Daszak's partnership with the chimeric production of pathogens both in North Carolina and in Wuhan. So don't tell me that we have to do an investigation into where this came from. The criminals have admitted to it in their own words. Next slide. And now we get the fun one that no one in Congress is willing to address, which is the elephant in the room. On October the 21st, 2014, despite the multiple conversations between Senator Rand Paul and Anthony Fauci, where we've been told that Rand Paul has done everything he can to put Fauci on the ropes, he has had in his possession the letter that you see on the left. And it is the letter conveniently on NIAID letterhead sent to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which unambiguously states that during the gain-of-function moratorium, which, by the way, if we use the word moratorium, feels like that means you're supposed to stop. Why don't we go ahead and look at two pieces of this letter? First, the second bullet under Project One, which, by the way, was not part of the original grant. This was to look at the novel functions of the virus pathogenesis in vivo. You know what that means? In living systems. The grant was supposed to be clinical simulations and models, but this grant was modified with this letter to say we were going to authorize gain-of-function research during the moratorium in living systems. And then we love the last paragraph of this letter, which conveniently says, as your grant is currently funded, this pause is voluntary. How many times have you met a voluntary moratorium? And the best part about it is that if we look at the very last line, or continue to conduct the applicable gain-of-function research until the end of the currently active budget period. But here comes the problem. You know who is supplying the budget? An indefinite term, unlimited amount contract from DARPA and from NIH. Isn't it convenient to have a perpetually funded project that needs to stop when the money runs out, when you find out that there is no point where the money runs out because there is no end to the thing that has no end? Unless you think that I'm making an allegation, which I'm not. I'm making an accusation. Let's be clear. And there's a big difference. I'm not alleging anything. They actually went to the trouble of telling us that it was going to be the Wuhan virus that was going to get us. As you see on the right-hand side of the screen, published in 2016, March 14th of 2016, the SARS-like Wuhan Institute of Virology Virus 1, and I quote, is poised for human emergence. Does that sound like we're just surprised that something in Wuhan went a little haywire in December of 2019? Or does it feel like we were told, look at Wuhan and look at coronavirus and look at what we've been doing to manipulate coronavirus in Wuhan and at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And lo and behold, we're going to go ahead and tell you that we're ready to release it in 2016. Next slide. We're almost done. And then they created it. Now, all of you know that I am criticized globally for my use of the term biological warfare. I do that because I am credentialed to do that. I happen to be, for the United States government, in the early part of the 2000s and the latter part of the 90s, a person who was sent around the world to look at the proliferation of biological and chemical weapons. I'm acutely familiar with the definition of what a biological warfare agent is in the 18 U.S. Code, the criminal code of violations of biological and chemical weapons. And so my assessment is, in fact, professional and right. And the reason for that is I'm the one credentialed to make that determination for the United States government for many years. That's why I say it. But let's pretend for the moment that I'm just a nut job. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So why don't we look at what the criminals said themselves, shall we? In 2005, at a conference sponsored by DARPA and the MITRE Corporation, Ralph Barrick, the architect of the lethal strand that has been injected into millions and billions of people's arms, that Ralph Barrick was sponsored to present the following, and let's go ahead and use his words, presentation: synthetic coronaviruses, biohacking, bio-warfare enabling technologies. Does that sound like a public health distribution program? Does that sound like something that is accidentally misinterpreted to mean something else? Or does biological warfare enabling technologies sound like not countermeasures or pandemic preparedness? It sounds to me like biological warfare enabling technologies. And the reason why I have that hunch is what followed was he received, next to his NIAID grants, non-competitive DARPA grants in matching funds for over $140 million of aggregate funding going into his and his related programs on synthetic biological warfare enabling technologies. So do I have a problem calling the injection a biological warfare enabling technology? Absolutely not, because that's what they called it. And we know that they knew they called it that on September 18th, 2019. Because on September 18th, 2019, the racketeering, co-conspiring cabal of interlocking directorates, also known as the World Health Organization, said that they were going to conduct an experience for the world that was going to be a rapidly spreading pandemic due to a lethal respiratory pathogen. The lethality in that statement is the problem. They didn't say we're going to maybe get a little bit of sniffles going around. They said we were going to actually have the promulgation of a deadly agent. And the stated reason, in September 2020, the progress indicator is that the world would accept a universal vaccine. Not, we'll look at other options of treatment. Not, we'll have a look at what might be early intervention, as Dr. McCullough has so clearly advocated for in many, many, many instances. Not that. We stated on September 18th, 2019, we were intending to kill. And we were intending to kill to create the fear that would drive people to accept something that without coercion, no one would have accepted. And that's published by the criminal racketeers. Next slide, and there's only 2 to go if you're following. Deploy and profit from it. We were told investors will respond if they see profit at the end of the process. And lo and behold, guess what they saw? Profit at the end of the process. 2022, $100 billion for Pfizer of public funds. Moderna, after lying to the Congress in October of 2020, when they were asked to actually verify whether NIAID was promoting an injection that would enrich NIAID, where Anthony Fauci and the entire team at NIH said that they had no financial interest in their recommendation, they receive a back payment royalty of $400 million for the first payment of the royalty. $400 million. More than any Institute of Health has ever received in a single payment for a single invention in the history of American medical research. And lo and behold, what do we receive after that? A request from the World Health Organization to expand its budget by 11% to make sure that the people who profited from it donate to it. And guess what they just did? They laundered the money right back. That's what they did. Next, and now you get the final slide. This is not a public health crime. This is actually not a constitutional crime. This is a criminal act done by a criminal institution established to enable criminal behavior since its foundation in 1947. That is what this is. And we should not be debating the merits of democracy or liberty or anything else, as irrational as that would be if we stood at a bank robbery and debated the merits of printing dollar bills. The problem is not the dollar bills, it's the bank robber. And the problem here is not health, and it's not public health, and it's not the suppression of information and the suppression of dissident views and the absolute unconscionable treatment of physicians around the world and academicians around the world who spoke out against this. That's not the crime. The crime is that we had criminal racketeers who conspired and developed a, quote, emergency. The same criminal racketeers planned, manufactured, and did all agency capture to make sure that you were told that you would use terms that they tell you to use. Vaccine, face mask, health, social distancing, none of which had ordinary use definition. So we just used them. Criminal racketeers price fixed with interlocking directorates where known competitors came together and fixed prices in direct collusion, in violation of both European Union standards and in violation of both the Sherman and the Clayton Act in the United States. These were crimes. It was organized crime, and we should treat it as such. Criminal racketeers publicly lied under oath. And this resulted in the death and destruction of liberty, and most importantly, the death and destruction of the integrity of well-meaning people who sit here today doing everything they can within their power to try to treat the calamities created by this catastrophe. I will not for a moment denigrate the multiple contributions of amazing academic and medical professionals who've tried desperately to step into the gap and stop the corrupt outcomes of these crimes. But I will, without doubt, say the following. Until we treat this as a criminal conspiracy of criminal racketeers resulting in global terrorism for the purpose of profiteering and murder, until we have that conversation, we're having the wrong conversation. Because we are not here to debate the merits of a modified agreement for a criminal racketeering organization. We are here to end the criminal organization itself. This is my call to every single person on this planet. Don't just limit the power of the WHO. Destroy the WHO. Thank you very much.
I got to make an adjustment and get my camera back. There we go. Very interesting, huh?
But well, it is interesting. I wanted to make a point to you, and I'm gonna present it how I think this future stuff is going to go. I've always been concerned with gain of function, and I've got to see how I can present this. I'm not sure. I can't share a screen, but I got it up there. I want to read this to you.
You can share a screen.
I'm not sure how I can do it though.
You go down. You go down to where the
present.
Go down to where the plus mark is at the bottom.
I got that. Okay.
And then move up, slide up. It says share screen.
Okay, and let's see. There we go. All right. All right. Can you see that?
Yeah, pretty much. You have to read it though, because it's kind of small.
Gain of function is not our issue, folks. I mean, it's an issue, but it's not the big one. If you remember what I was saying about mere life, the right-handedness, the left-handedness, and how it works and corresponds by creating this problem. Think about this. One of the most deadly viruses out there. When you think about that, what do you think? You think the plague or something else? Ebola has an extremely high lethality rate. And I want to tell you, it can be used with mere life. And when we look at it and we start to talk about it, it's an immune evasion and widespread infection. But not just to humans, potentially including both humans and many other species, because of their immune systems, would be unable to recognize and fight the mere bacteria effectively. So even in the treatments of it, traditional treatments, antibiotics, they'll become ineffective, immune defenses. And as it goes on, reading it, I did anthrax also. These things are just unbelievable. The one that scares me the most is the Ebola, because here's a breakdown of the potential outcomes, and I want to read it. And I think I have the anthrax up, and I want to get rid of that one and put up the Ebola one. And this one is just something else, but I'll take that off for just a second. Where'd you go, Rish? You there? Anyway.
I'm here. I cut mine out so you'd have more room on the screen to make it bigger.
Okay. So this one here is, let me see, in summary, using the mirror life, particularly in the context of dangerous virus like Ebola, presents serious concerns related to human evasion, widespread infections, ecosystem disruption. Scientists stressing the importance of evaluating these risks and considering responsible approaches in the research field right now. And these things are already they're already testing this stuff. Why they say it's a decade away, but they're already testing. And that's the thing that kills you, is because it's everything. It's plants, it's animals, it's everything. And our problem is this: people don't understand our Earth is a living organism.
Absolutely.
Life comes from life. Life cannot come from anything else. Life comes from life. And water and plant life and everything else is life. So if you can make something that can kill the soil, to make it impossible to create life, to kill everything, we don't know how far it could go, to the oceans. Could it kill everything else past that? Mm-hmm. I mean, this thing could affect animals, different species. What does species mean? Well, that could be ants, that could be bees, that could be birds, dogs, cats, all kinds of animals. I mean, just think about that. On top of mankind. Wow. So I look at that and I look at AI, and those two things are a devilish, evil mix. because they can do such research with this AI. And I've been saying a long time ago, when they had stuff that were coming out for AI all the way back in the 90s. Okay? They made this dog and some guy was kicking the dog. I actually almost fell for it. I was like, why are you kicking this thing? It reminded me so much of a dog. And he's kicking this.
No, I don't
Do you remember that?
Mm-mm. No.
Okay. It was like a tin can with the dog on 4 legs traveling over. He was kicking it and it was moving it over and everything. You know, he was trying to knock it over, and this thing was just like a machine thing. And this dog, or this AI type thing, I was like, man, he's just kicking this thing. I don't understand the point of this. Guess what we're seeing today? We are seeing over in Ukraine, we are seeing over in the militaries that they have these canine things where they can start to mount now these Gatling gun type weapons on top of them.
Oh, yeah.
All terrain.
Oh, yeah.
And if you start to look, and you're probably right, Marcus, that probably was DARPA or some of the other things that were done. But if you look at that kind of application that they're doing and AI running these things and everything else, how long before mere life and AI becomes mixed? And then what are the repercussions? You could trigger and basically have a population control in certain areas. How long would they be contaminated? Who knows? Or if they are making a vaccine or something else to control that part, nobody would know. Who would know? So
the idea with the all-terrain robot, whatever you want to call it,
that horse thing. Did you see that thing?
I've seen one that it uses wheels on the front and tracks on the back, and it's flexible. In other words, it like folds, so it can go over all kinds of stuff. It goes sideways, it goes forwards, backwards, and they had a machine gun mounted to this thing. You can imagine the damage something like that could do. How do you stop something like that?
You don't.
Yeah. With a machine gun on it. That was pretty scary. And of course, they say, well, this is just for entertainment purposes, right? Well,
here it is. All right, here we go. We have them out now. All right, here it is, Riss. let me see if I can present this. I never know how to do this, but
go down to the plus mark.
Is it share screen?
Share screen.
All right. Oh, there it is.
And then it'll give you a choice.
Here we go. Let me get past this little commercial. They always do a little commercial first.
And turn website layouts into an art form.
Kawasaki has surprised everyone by coming up with a robot horse that people can actually ride. And its features are insane. But before we even get to this, let's give major props to Kawasaki for not just copying Boston Dynamics homework. You know, like how everyone else does with robot dogs. For them, they just went off the script and said, we're going to build something wild. And honestly, they delivered. But also, I am sure that I can't be the only one thinking this. If you remember that viral clip from last year of someone riding a Unitree robot dog, you might think that maybe, just maybe, someone at Kawasaki saw that and thought, what if we made a real version of that? But cooler, more stable, and designed it like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie? Because it kind of reminds me of that moment. First off, it has adjustable stirrups that let you choose your riding style, stand for more aggressive movement, or sit back for a smoother ride. It's a small feature, but one that shows Kawasaki is thinking deeply about rider comfort and flexibility. And they claim that its 4 robotic legs absorb shocks better than any traditional suspension system on a dirt bike. By making sure each step is calculated in real time, allowing the legs to react instantly to the terrain, reducing jarring impacts and keeping the rider balanced. Unlike other robots that are electric, this thing is hydrogen powered. It runs on a hydrogen fuel cell, paired with a 150cc engine. Kawasaki has already been dabbling in hydrogen-powered vehicles, like their Ninja H2 high-SC motorbike, which they showcased at Japan's iconic Suzuka circuit. They're aiming to launch it within the next 25 years, which sounds like forever. But hey, Rome wasn't built in a day. the robot comes packed with integrated AI that helps it balance itself, navigate tricky paths, and react to the environment. That AI is constantly calculating how to keep the rider stable while also figuring out the best path across uneven terrain. It has 4 legs like an animal, and each one moves independently, allowing it to walk, trot, and adjust in real time based on the terrain. Kawasaki says it was inspired by wolves and even panthers in how it moves. Riders mount it like a horse, controlling the robot with their body. If you shift your weight forward, it moves. When you lean back, it slows down. That alone is already on a different level of immersive riding experience. And then there's the heads-up display, the HUD that feeds you all the important data you need while riding. Things like hydrogen fuel levels, your current balance and stability, terrain feedback, and even weight distribution. This is critical, especially since the entire control system is based on your body movement. So if you're leaning a bit too much to one side or your balance is off, the system can give you real-time feedback to help you adjust. For now, this is just a prototype, and Kawasaki has revealed everything, like how fast it can go, how far it can travel on a full tank of hydrogen.
For now, it's just a theory.
What they've shown so far already makes it one of the most exciting robotics concepts we've seen in years. And they're not just throwing this out for shock value. Kawasaki is actually envisioning a world where these robot horses might replace traditional off-road motorcycles.
Tesla. Now, I want you to, this is a prototype, which means, and it's all in the wording. Again, it's all in the wording. Oh, we're 25 years away, but we got a prototype.
Yeah.
And they're telling you the features of it.
They're not 25 years from that.
Right.
There's no way.
If these things can move like that, and this prototype is already moving,
realistically, it'd be more like 5 years, maybe 5. You got to remember now.
To the public,
we have
to the public in 5, but can the military get a hold of it? Now think about this. This is why I say mixing AI, mixing mere life, mixing add this in now. This being a delivery system.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to pay attention. We're thinking, oh, this is a great way to travel around. We're seeing all the positives out of it. Most people,
I don't know. Watching it, I just got the creeps watching it, which is, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but it looked creepy to me.
And I said a long time ago with AI, kill it before it gains ground. I knew it then. I'm not a fan of it. For every good thing that we can do, we find a way to do evil like no other way.
Marcus says DARPA made the robot dog.
Yeah, I was telling them I'm sure that they did. But just imagine, there's your delivery system, there's your prototype, and they give you a prototype and it's working. They've got, where you could see it working.
I don't think it's 25 years. I think it's maybe 5 years, because you're going to have AI designing AI. So how you see how fast it takes it to do something now? Like I can go on like chat AI and say, write me an article, 500 words, and tell me about whatever. And like not even 30 seconds, boom, the article's up, right? So you can imagine if you say, okay, I want to design whatever it is I'm designing. It needs to do this, that, and the other. As long as you give it the proper instructions, this thing's going to design it for you.
All right, now is where my conspiracy theory will come to life. What if they've decided? You remember the Georgia Guidestones?
Yeah, I mentioned them earlier.
Okay,
yeah.
So you remember that. So somebody had a vision of that, so much so that they made these Guidestones by it. Okay, think about taking out. You have a delivery system. You have AI, it's controlled, okay? You have a mere virus, and then you have a select group of monetarily influenced high-up people, okay? What does that lead to? Ultimate power.
Yeah.
Ultimate control.
I think I took that down. Let's see. I had a picture of the...
and power corrupts power. So you've got these things. You have your 4 or 5 fundamental things to put this all in play. Should we be scared? You bet we should.
I don't like scared. I like concerned, aware. Scared gets people into a mental state they're not thinking properly.
Okay. So does concerned or the word fear or something else. I'm not telling you to fear. I am saying we should be scared about who we are putting up there in charge.
Yeah, I agree.
This is a time for when people need to pay attention. I'm not telling you to walk around and crawl under a shell or whatever and hide yourself. What I'm telling you is you should be very much involved in voting, very much involved in paying attention to who is getting elected into office, and not just here. This is a worldwide deal. It's a worldwide deal. All right, let me.
I don't know why it's doing that. Go back there. I don't know why it did that. It's trying to get there we go. So the very first line of the Georgia Guidestones is maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Back with the words again, right? What is fitness and diversity? What does that mean? Are we going to be robotic like what Elon wants? He wants what is it called? Transhumanism? Is that what they're talking about? But the first line pretty much says everything. Maintain humanity under 500 million.
Yeah, I mean, put that back on up there. Let's read some more on that thing. I mean,
let me see if I can bring it back up again. The issue is that this. Let's see. I'd like to get a better shot of it, but no. Okay, so I'll just do it again.
While you do that one,
I can't get a really. So it's, improving fitness and diversity, unite humanity with a living new language. So what they want is they want to introduce a one world religion, which is, I believe, is going to be called Chrislam. Rule, passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Can't see the rest of it. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with, I can't see the rest of it. No, I can't see the rest of it. Anyway, you see, they make it sound so good. Oh, this is utopia, man. Wow. Yeah, right. This is an absolute 100% slavery. That's what this is.
All right, take that one down.
Okay.
Now I'm going to put this up. You can see that now?
Kind of. Let me get off. If I have to leave you on, otherwise they won't hear you.
Okay. So, what would happen if mere life, referring to synthetic organisms with reversed molecular chirality, were combined with AI? It could lead to both potential benefits and significant risks. So what are the potential risks? Undetectable, untreatable infections, organisms that might evade, just as we said before, immune defenses of humans, animals, and plants due to their reversed chirality. It's chirality. If released into the environment, they could cause widespread and potentially lethal infections that current treatments may not address. The ecosystem. It could potentially outcompete existing life forms, leading to irreversible ecosystem changes. There are concerns that engineered mere bacteria, even with the biocontainment measures, could still escape laboratories and spread in the environment. The role of AI, accelerating the research, potentially accelerate the development of mere life by improving design tools for DNA and RNA. The misuse, powerful capabilities of AI and biological design raise concerns about the potential for misuse, such as the creation of mere organisms as biological weapons. Expert warnings. And a commentary was published in Science, and related report warned of the serious risks associated with mere life creation. Leading experts in immunology, ecology, evolutionary biology, and other fields caution against creating this mere bacteria of other organisms due to unprecedented and irreversible harm they could cause to human health and global ecosystems. These experts have called for a halt to research aimed at creating mere organisms unless compelling evidence emerges proving safety. So in summary, while the combination of mere life holds potential for advancements in areas like medicine and manufacturing, these associated risks, particularly regarding the immune evasion and ecosystem disruption, are significant and warrant careful consideration and cautious approach as advertised by the scientific community. So when they're calling for a halt for this stuff, all right, they're telling you, and again, here's the wording. Listen, immunology, ecology, evolutionary biology, and other fields caution, organisms due to the unprecedented and irreversible harm that they could cause to human health and global ecosystems. It is just, and then it says, unless they can have compelling evidence emerges proving their safety. So when I look at this and I see this, that to me is a huge concern, Riss. That this is what we're going to be facing. And what is it?
With 500 billion, by the way, 500 billion to be invested in AI. Wow.
Yeah. And it clearly states it is a bioweapon, which tells me how can you make it unless it poses, where they have safeguards. But when you say bioweapon and put it in the same area of sentence or paragraph as prove that it has safety, there's safety, constraints on this thing. The bottom line is bioweapon. Now you've said the word. You know what I'm saying?
Just shows you how upside down, I've said many times, look at how much money we spend on researching how to kill versus how much money we spend researching how to heal. It's not, it's a day and night difference. It's not apples. It's not, a comparison of apples to apples.
It's not
totally
close.
different.
So think about it with Ebola, mixing AI, Ebola, and mere life, anthrax, right? And then think about it for smallpox. Think about it for COVID. Think about it for just about everything that you could think. Spanish flu, the plague, all kinds of things. Can you understand the horrific repercussions? And what are these things? These things are already bioweapons.
Yeah. Yeah.
These things were used, and they're like, well, the plague wasn't a bioweapon. Bull crap, because when they were in the wars and stuff, what were they doing? Throwing infected parts of the plague in over castle walls and everything else to get everyone inside sick, and then go in and siege it and take it over or burn it down. Absolutely. They were crushing other kingdoms and everything else. When you look at smallpox and everything, yeah, well, how come that we, treat that when we go into the military? And that doesn't even count the chemical weapons. That doesn't count any of that stuff. That's just some of the things that we have to be afraid of. And how many of these things did we create that they're saying that are viruses that maybe were used targeted bioweapons?
I mentioned that earlier, that they are able to target specific genes within people now so that they can. I spoke about a TED Talk. This wasn't a TED Talk. It was a military debriefing, I think is how it's referred to, where it looks like, I got to see if I can find the video. It looks like it's Bill Gates talking to some military personnel with a screen behind him showing the breakdown of cells and then explaining to them that he has come up with a vaccine that can remove the God gene from people. So they no longer believe in God. So his excuse was, well, we can give this vaccine to the crazy Muslims that want to kill everybody. They won't believe in God anymore. They won't want to kill anybody.
Which I'm good. This is the kind of thing I'm saying. And now you have delivery systems, just like the Kawasaki thing. Think about this: hypersonic ballistic missiles, everything else. I mean, it's not just a nuclear warfare now that, where people are, well, they've got nukes or this and that. No. What if it is they want to just make select areas or something else? I'm telling you, we're not paying attention. And I'm not telling you to go on out and be a prepper. Let me tell you something. I would rather pass on and go to heaven and, than sit here and try to hide from all this stuff. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live my life the way I live my life. But it is something to pay attention to, because there is no protection from it. This stuff can get in. We don't know. Maybe it can get into your skin. Maybe it can go through. What are you going to do? Wear gloves and a suit and a mask the rest of your life? That's not living.
Live in a bubble.
Yeah, that's not living. And what if it breaches that? What if it disintegrates that just to get to you? I'm just saying all these different things that we're creating. Why are they creating it? You have to ask yourself that question. Why are we going out to create something that dangerous, to play with something that dangerous? Is it ego? Is it pride? Is it money? I mean,
no, that's the surface of it. The root of it is spiritual. This is darkness that has come upon us. We've allowed this darkness to come. I said that earlier. We've allowed this to happen, willingly or unwillingly. We have allowed this to happen, knowingly or unknowingly. We've allowed this to happen. And now more and more people are becoming aware that, hey, wait a minute, this is not the darkness is not what we thought. Well, darkness might be something like a horror movie, something. Horror movies are the tip of the iceberg. They're like a walk in the park compared to the reality.
Horror movies are, I don't
watch movies anymore, but I'm just saying.
Horror movies don't even compare to some of the things that we're going to see. I would think within the next 20 to 25 years, maybe sooner. I mean,
I'm looking to see if I can get some information about what I was just telling you. It won't come up. So when I put it into Google, of course, Google CIA, but when I put it into Google about vaccines and focusing on genes, it says that's basically conspiracy theory. Let me go back and get it again.
Well, let me tell you, and then they have fact checkers, and this is why I'll use Senator Kennedy's line. People called Noah crazy when he built the ark, and then the rains came, and all the fact checkers died. Yeah. So, you think about that, and I mean, you saw what happened in the Pentagon when we did the bombings. There was a leak. The last time there was a leak like that, Noah built himself an ark. So, we have issues. And, you know, if we're getting through to some of these high echelon, high up areas, what's the chances of this thing not escaping a lab? What's the chances of it not being used? I'm going to tell you, slim to none. You get one person that travels and this thing can mutate or do what it does, you're not talking about infecting other humans. You're talking about infecting ecosystems, biology, ecology.
It's funny that you brought that up because did you see about where they arrested the 2 Chinese people with some fungus or something? It was supposed to be absolutely deadly to plant life.
Was that the California one? The California?
I'm not sure where it was at. It could have been California.
They had a lab there, or they had some kind of a lab there that they
shut that down. I think I'm pretty sure they shut that down. No, This was like two guys. They were like, I think they called them spies or something, but they had this fungus or bacteria or something that was really deadly. I you know what I do is I save some of these links and then I go back and I can't figure out where I put them.
Yeah, well, it's
joys of getting older, right?
Yeah.
Can't remember things sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and you know, you have to, and it's. I know it all sounds like conspiracy theory or not, but I pegged this thing as a bioweapon years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When it first came out, and I'm like, and I'm an ex-military person. I mean, so none of this stuff really comes as a surprise to me, because when you're, you know, you know a little bit, you know, I'm not any secret thing, but you have a pretty good idea how things go.
Mm-hmm.
And some things they hit your radar and you're like, that makes sense. And you put it into a perspective of, okay, we have to worry about anthrax. We have to worry about all kinds of stuff. So I said, and Riskella is my witness, I said this a long time ago. I said, this is a bioweapon. I said,
I think a lot of us,
this was lab created. I knew it was lab created. I knew that there's only 2 ways that this thing could have leaked out. And pardon my French, some dumbass tripped and broke a vial. Okay. And this thing escaped. Or B, it was intentionally tested. And we had this in the United States until a law changed. It was back in the 40s or 50s where they could test stuff on their own people. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And you could do that here.
Think about this, Michael. When all that went down, one of the things that I found very curious is that all of a sudden it jumped from China to the United States, and then jumped from the United States to, I don't know, all these other countries, like literally overnight. So to me, I started thinking about that's almost impossible. How can that happen so quickly? They were all stocking up on this crap and letting it loose is how it happened. It wasn't just China. It was a whole, talk about conspiracy. This was a true conspiracy. This was a bunch of conspirators getting together and providing this thing to make it look like a worldwide pandemic, when in fact they were the ones who were spreading it.
It kind of makes you think of, they were testing the first phases of what we call natural selection.
Could be, yeah.
To where you were weeding out the weakest.
Right.
And those who hung in there, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then looking at the reaction of it. Take this right here and, let's see what happens. And how can we control it at the same time? It's like a diamond. It has so many different facets to it. You don't know on how many different levels that their thinking is, and who is there. I don't know. I know people say DARPA. I know people say pharmaceutical. People say people like Fossey or
all of that stuff is on the surface. Look at what this is. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I see it.
Now this was a video I played this last week. It was a short video. It's about 30 seconds. But as these people are celebrating this game, they're actually celebrating Satan. And this Latin that they have at the bottom says something like "take our souls" or something, some really creepy stuff. But what you're doing when you see something like this, these people are giving power to the dark side, and it makes it that much more difficult for the rest of us on the planet, because this isn't just, I think this was Brazil. This isn't just in Brazil. This affects the whole planet.
Oh, it's worldwide anyway. It's worldwide. You know, people have to realize that we're in a spiritual battle, and it's it's not physical. It's principalities.
That's the root of it.
Yeah.
We suffer the surface of it, the physical end of it, but the root of it all, the power, the cause of it all, is in the spiritual realm.
Absolutely.
If you don't fight in the spiritual realm, you're losing. I can't put it in any other words. You have to be able to hold your ground in the spiritual realm, and the only way you're going to be able to do that is to have a relationship with the Almighty.
And it is, and remember this, and then I got to go. I want to go up and Sherry's up there, but here's my thing: is that if you are having a relationship with God, ask yourself, are you doing it on your terms or are you doing it on God's terms? That's the biggest difference. Okay. That's the difference between Christianity and spiritual Christianity. Spiritual Christianity is saying, okay, I'm having this relationship with God on his terms, praising him, giving him glory all day long. Okay. Doing it on our terms, what they call themselves Christians, putting a badge on because I go to church on Sunday. I got time for you, God, from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock. And then we have Bible study maybe on Monday or Tuesday night. And then we have church again on Wednesday. But then after that, I got a lot of stuff to do. I'll get back to you. You know what I'm saying? So you've got to have a relationship with Christ God, but on Christ God's terms. And now I saw another reel, that they're talking about the Trinity doesn't exist. That's a man-made thing. Well, it's not. Biblically, I can go through. I mean, we can go into Matthew. We can go, I think it's Matthew 30, and he talks about the advocate, the Holy Spirit. And it's very interesting that it definitely shows a three-part thing. And even if you go to John, first there was the Word was with God. God is the Word, or was the Word, is the Word. And nothing was created at all without God. God created it all. So, but when Christ is going to die, I'm not alone. God is with me, but I'm going to leave you an advocate, thus showing a three separate part: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. It's just very interesting. And people miss that. So now they've got all this stuff saying, oh, there's only two. Well, we know that that's not true. So, I mean, and it's been all the way back from.
It goes back to dividing if we can divide the people, then we can control the people. That's what it boils down to.
Well, we know the Holy Spirit existed all the way back, even in Leviticus, because God placed the Holy Spirit on the different people that were helping create the tabernacle. God gave those people in building the tabernacle the Holy Spirit. If you go back there and look, the Spirit of God was on them, and they knew all the designs, exactly how it was to be made and everything, because God gave them the wisdom of that through the Spirit. It's very clear in there. So from New Testament to Old Testament, there's over 63,000 cross references, but it's very clear. It proves it way back then, and it proves it again in the New Testament, not only through Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, and all these different ones. Elijah, everything. If you go through, it's very interesting, but we know that there are indeed three: the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Amen. Yep.
And we know that because Christ even said, "I am going to leave you, but I'm going to leave you so you're not alone, an advocate." So make sure you're having a relationship with Christ God, but do it on his terms. It's very hard to do, and we're going to fall short, but that's the way you got to do it, and not on your terms. So we have to do it on God's terms. So, but pay attention to this stuff. It's out there, and I'm not telling you to go live in fear or anything else, but I want you to pay attention.
Live in knowledge. Live in knowledge.
It is. It's just knowledge. And when these people talk, they're understand something. Satan is crafty.
Very.
He comes here
Master crafty.
It is to steal, kill, and destroy. What does he steal? He steals your hope and your faith. That's your belief in God. And it kills you. Okay.
Yeah.
And when it kills you, because you don't have a chance for life because he's taken that away from you. And what destroys you? You're going to hell. There's your destruction because you have veered away and turned your back on God. You made a free choice decision. So now you are done. That's steal, kill, and destroy. You're not in the book of life. You're destroyed. So keep it in mind.
I spoke earlier about not being in the book of life and how this thing that went in the arm changes your DNA.
What is hell? You want to know what my hell is? Not being in the book of life and God saying, "I don't know you." That is
scary. That is scary.
That's scary because okay, then there's going to be a lake of fire or whatever it is that you're going to suffer for the rest of eternity. No time, no ending to it. But the worst part is Christ God saying, "I never knew you."
Scary words.
Wisdom comes for one that has a fear of the Lord. That's how wisdom begins, having a fear of the Lord. So, and the understanding and everything else will follow that and keep asking him for knowledge. But that's the very beginning of wisdom is fear of the Lord. So, rightfully so, But anyway, listen, good night, everyone. I hope that, informational and God bless you all. And thank you again, Riss, for having me on. I know I kind of jumped on. I didn't have a whole bunch of time, but
I don't mind.
But thank you, brother.
I'm working on having Dr. Brian Artis. Those of you may know who that is. I sent him an invitation, and I'm waiting for a response. If I can get him on, those of you who have suffered from the proverbial you-know-what, he has a lot of useful information, very useful information. And some of it is because of his personal experience. And he's a hands-on doc. He's not a Fauci doc who just talks and never sees a patient. He's a hands-on kind of guy. So hopefully I can get him on.
Those are those outside the box paradigm thinking, and they look at everything, and that's great. So let me go, and I will talk to you later, brother.
All right. God bless. Good evening. Thanks for joining. Oh, that was really crazy about all of the different things that this bacteria or whatever that crazy insanity stuff is. It just shows you how sick these people are. They're so saturated with darkness. The only way we'll get out of it is to have more people with light, more people that bring light, more people who will pray, and more people who will ask God to intervene. I think that's the ultimate weapon for us who are believers, is to ask God to intervene and put a stop to this. We used to we would pray to bind them, to bind Satan in their lives, to bind the actions so that they couldn't get away with what they get away with, because if they have their way, as I showed you earlier, 500 million. Now, imagine they say that, and I don't believe much of anything they tell me, but they say there's about 8 billion of us on the planet. So 8 billion would be 800 million. 800? Yeah. 8 billion. Yes. I think that's right. 8 billion would be 800. No, 8,000 million. It's getting late in the night, and I'm losing it. 8 billion is how many million? I think it's 8,000. 8,000 million. 8,000 millions would be 8 billion. I think it's 8,000. They want to move it from 8,000 to 500. That's how many people they want to remove off the planet. I think it's 8,000. I may be wrong. But it comes out, if you work it out in numbers, it's like 9 out of 10 people, they want gone. I read a very interesting story about somebody who was in their cult, as he called it, and said what they want to do is design, for lack of a better description, a Disney World for the adults, for them. They have the technology. They can fly from one place to another in minutes. What takes us hours, they can do in minutes. And they have the underground railways. They can travel literally, again, supersonic speeds underground. So they can just develop all of their playgrounds all over the world, and they can go play in their playgrounds. And any given time they won't have to worry about people like us who have worked our behinds off while they have sat in the background figuring out ways to deplete us of our finances. They won't have to worry about us anymore. They won't have to worry about if there's so many of us and we wake up at the right time. There's an old saying that says they won't. How's it go? They fear walking in the streets. They won't be safe walking amongst the public if we get to that point, because everybody will know that these are the criminals and they'll have no place in our society. That's a long ways away yet. Even though more people are waking up, we're still a long ways from that. And it's going to take people like me and you to tell people. Some people are not, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how convincing, no matter how much evidence, they're not. Just move on. They're not going to believe you. I think that they are living in a delusion, and it is if I am right, it is a condemnation from God. God has put a delusion on them for the lies that they believe. And if that's the case, then their reality is not our reality. And you're trying to convince them that their reality is not reality. It's not going to work. You just walk away and find someone else. Unfortunately, I have people who are very close to me who they don't want to accept what's going on. Their total belief system is based on the media. And no matter how hard I try, no matter how much evidence I can show them. I played for you a video tonight with Dr. Malone and Dr. Martin. These are very well-known, very well-credentialed doctors. Dr. Malone says that the myocarditis, 79% of the people that got the you-know-what got the myocarditis. They died from it. 79% of the people that they were testing, the people that were performing the autopsies on, 79%. Why is Fauci walking free? Why are the people who put all this together, they knew what they were doing, why are they walking free? This is part of my frustration. We should be seeing the real criminals being taken away. Not this little fish here and a little fish. Oh, we arrested a judge. Oh, we arrested another judge. Oh, we arrested a state official in Arizona, I think it was, for manipulating the election. What about the man who was responsible for literally millions of people around the world dying? Don't do anything to him, right? Don't say anything about him. He's back.
Because I made a mistake. I said Leviticus and it's Exodus. And I apologize for that. It hit me right when I was going in to fix my last cup of coffee. The tabernacle was being made in Exodus, and everything else was the Ark of the Covenant, which is the judgment seat and all that. So, but Exodus, Leviticus, right in those. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't make
the Ark of the Covenant.
So
I read a story about college kids somehow followed the thing about the Ark of the Covenant and made something that was like a 0 point generator. It made electricity. And maybe that's why only certain people could touch it without dying. I don't know. Maybe.
To give you an idea, at the end of all that, after Numbers and everything else, when they are Joshua, when Moses didn't go in there, Moses' downfall was, he said, "Must I strike this rock to give you all water?" Because they complained. And he didn't say, "Must God have me strike this rock for you to give you water?" And again, wording. Because he did that and he didn't glorify God, God told him, "You will see the promised land,
you won't go there,
and all that, but you're not going to go in it."
Yeah.
And Moses,
there's a picture of a rock with a slice right down the center of it.
That's the one. And anyway, Moses was able to look out and see it, but it was going to end up to be Joshua that got to lead them in. So again, that was the next parting of the sea in that time. And when Joshua went over and went to Jericho, they marched around. One day marching around, blowing the trumpets.
7 days, I thought it was. Wasn't it?
No, one day, one time around. The second day, twice around. The third day, 3 times around. The fourth day, 4 times. So on and so on to the 7th day. And no one was to say anything, just blowing the trumpets,
just
walking around. And then on that 7th day, they were to shout. And when they did, the walls came down. Very powerful. And
I read a story about that. This guy who I can't figure out his title. He specializes in healing frequencies and vibrations, and he believes that what you just described, when at the last day when they did the shout, they hit the right frequency. Like when a singer hits the right frequency,
break
glass.
Yes.
They hit the right frequency and just brought the walls down.
I think that everything is done with God. I've always believed that. God is. Listen, when you see a donkey, when a donkey stops in the middle of a road, and then the guy starts to beat the donkey, and the donkey turns and says, "Hey, listen, why are you beating me? Have I ever behaved this way before? Well, I didn't listen to you, and now you're beating me." Okay, the donkey talking to the guy, and then all of a sudden there's an angel there. And the angel says, "Why are you beating the donkey?" The donkey knew to stop, which then gives you enlightenment to animals see things that we don't.
Yeah, amen. I agree.
Okay?
100%.
Have you ever seen cats, dogs, and stuff react to stuff before it happens? And everything
they clearly see stuff we don't see.
So when people say that's far-fetched and maybe that's not true or that's a metaphor, no, it's not. Okay. I mean, you might think so. And the Bible is written poetically. It's written with a lot of theology. It's written with, parallelisms and everything else. Metaphorically, everything else. Christ spoke that way a lot of ways, parables and but no, you see these things. It's incredible. Read about Jeremiah before he was born and before he came out of the room. That's a great one. But Isaiah knowing when Christ was coming, so telling you his name was going to be Emmanuel. And what is Emmanuel? God with us.
Yep.
That's right. So when you look at all these different things, and then God saying, "I'm doing a new thing now," powerful. It's just incredible. I love reading the Bible, folks. I'm sorry. This is my 5th time reading it. I love doing it. Yeah, I tell them all the time, I'm not a pastor, deacon, clergy, priest, bishop, rabbi, nothing. I'm just a guy that loves to read it. And I love looking at it and seeing everything. Don't look at the surface. Go deep. Look at all the facets of the diamond. So, sorry, I just wanted to correct that because I didn't want people to say, no, he's in the wrong book. No. So, anyway, I apologize for that.
God bless you, brother. Be well. If you don't know who that is, that happens to be Michael. He is the president of our network, and we wouldn't be here without Michael. So much thanks and great respect to him. And he's very very passionate about the Bible, and we've had many discussions that revolve around that. And he's probably one of the finest men I've ever had the opportunity to know. Truly cares about other people. Truly cares about trying to make a positive difference in the world. Like I said, we need more people like that. This is what we need. The only way I believe we're ever going to be able to overcome these evil people is that we have more of us than there is of them that are of light. Because there are already more of us than there is of them. That's not the problem. We need more of us than there is of them that are of light. Because then we can chase the darkness away. Then the darkness cannot survive. It literally disappears. It disintegrates because the light wipes it out completely. I could see a time where the technologies that have been withheld from us and some of those technologies that are being used against us to be used for us. Michael mentioned about the AI. I'm concerned about the AI to be used against us. I've said several times tonight, these people will tell you what they're going to do before they do it. And they've told us through movies, through videos, through music, through a wide variety of sources, what they're going to do before they do it. I think about the, what was it? The I'll Be Back series. I can't think of the name of the, doggone it, Terminators. The Terminator series. And there's a video out there. You go look around enough, you'll find it. They've already equipped these, you want to call it a robot. It's like, it's remote control, but it's like a robot. And they're talking about integrating AI into these things. What are we looking at? And if you're somebody, I mentioned on the last show, if you're somebody who knows that this current administration has hired on with Palantir, I think is the way that it's said, you know that they're gathering all this information on everybody. So there's not going to be any privacy anymore. If you're somebody like me who can't keep his mouth shut and you say something they don't like, what are they going to do? They know everything about you. If there truly is a, you know what, that goes in the arm that is gene specific, I can tell you this from what I know. The government is not our friend. I don't care who you like in there. They're not your friend. That's biblical. That's coming from the Bible. Governments are not our friend. And if we don't keep an eye on them, if we don't keep tabs, what's happened in the last 4 years is just a walk in the park. Because I mentioned earlier in this, when I talked to you tonight, I'm disappointed in what's going on. There's some good stuff. I thank you for the good stuff. I appreciate it. But there's some other stuff that's happening. Wait a minute. There's some other stuff that's not happening that is concerning me. It's bothering me. I played that video of you for you of what I thought should be real. It's just an AI made up video. That should be our reality. I guarantee you, we get rid of those people in that video, all of our lives will be affected in a positive manner because the darkness that they bring upon us will be gone. But my frustration lies because nobody for nothing, for no way. I appreciate you guys hanging in with me. I got to run for now. I'll be back in a week. God bless. Hopefully we'll be able to do it right this time. Here we go.
Take the red pill, take the blue pill.